The rankings. They finally got one right. I got to tell you, I love the rankings because I love to complain. It's not an actual personal commentary. It's part of being a fan. You really find yourself, if you're going to have a good time, forced to have one of two views, to cheer or to boo, right? That would be to simplify things. But to be a fan and to have a good time, you largely either got to be cheering for something or you've got to be booing about something. Now, rankings is interesting, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it annoys me, number one. You have people that are allowed to rank. You also have people who are allowed to share their opinion on ranking such things as pound for pound. But neither the people allowed to rank nor the people allowed to share their opinion are forced to pass a litmus test of which they should be forced to pass, which is, where did the term pound for pound come from? I hear people share what it means, and they're sharing what they would like it to mean, or they sometimes share what it means to them. But that's not the way words work. Pound for pound is a term coined from the boxing world in the 1980s by a small-time paper reporter in Brooklyn who took the time to define his own term. And he simply said, if both guys weighed the same, who would win? If weight were not a factor and they both weighed the same based on the skills that you're seeing them both possess, and you're doing it imaginary in your mind's eye, who would win? Great. I think that's very simple. I want to give you the top 6. Number 6, pound for pound, came out this morning. Number 6 overall, Alex Pereira. Number 5, Pantoja. Number 4 is Chimaev. Number 3 is Merab. Number 2 is Islam. Number 1 is Ilya. I got no problem with that. Do you? And sometimes you're splitting hairs on greatness, and you're forced to turn to something that you don't want to turn to. Right? You're supposed to be in your mind's eye. If weight were not a factor, the skills of this versus the skills of this, and as an expert in the sport, you're supposed to do that, but sometimes you're forced to turn to resumes. Sometimes you're forced, whether you like it or not, to accept the outcome of head-to-head competition. Sometimes you're forced, whether you want to or not, to understand common opponent is the next strongest thing to head-to-head competition. I know in our sport, people love to say it's styles that make fights. This came along somewhere along the way, and it's like so many other things that we can't get people to shut up about. MMA math doesn't work. Styles that make fights. Shut up. You're not right. You don't even sound all that intelligent when you say it. I'm just sharing for you. Head-to-head competition is wildly important. Now, we don't have that right at the very top of our list with Ilya and Islam. In fact, that one puts you in a bit of a complex situation. If I asked you who should be number 1, popular opinion is Ilya. Even if you're on the side of Islam, I'm sharing with you, popular opinion is Ilya. If you were forced to look at resumes, one is a world champion and one's not. There's no way to get around that, as badly as you want to. One of them, aside from paperwork issues, if you were to just look at straight up competition, would actually have 3 belts right now. Ilya Topuria never lost the 45-pound belt. He lost it on paperwork. Ilya Topuria never got to fight for the BMF belt, but he beat the reigning BMF champion. And then Ilya, of course, is the lightweight champion. And I share that because now you got a guy that, in theory, could have 3 belts versus a guy with no belts, but in theory could have a belt. And in theory is favored to have a second belt. And my issue with Ilya versus Islam, while I agree with this ranking, while I believe you don't have a choice, you must put Ilya as number 1. I do believe that is met with a direct conflict if you were to turn the gun and ask me, all right, Chael, Ilya and Islam are going to fight. Who do you predict is going to win? And it wouldn't just be Chael's opinion. You could turn to the odds makers. You could turn to my partners at DraftKings for a very limited time, thought that fight was going to come, and they put out a mythical line. And I don't think you would be surprised that Islam was the favorite. And anytime rankings and odds don't match up, I think that raises a question every time. You claim that this guy is better, but when you have a chance to part with your money, you're saying this guy will win. And it's a very old argument in martial arts, which is who's better comes down to skill. If you can demonstrate an understanding of X amount of skills, that is how you move your rank up and ultimately achieve a black belt. Not being able to have to do it or test it in a live situation, having the understanding and being able to demonstrate certain concepts. There's a number of martial arts where you'll never even touch the other person. They call it kata, but it is form, it is understanding. This is where martial arts come from. Randy Couture is the first one that ever came out and said, in fact, he started a gym. You hardcores will have heard of it, called Team Quest. But Team Quest, before it was Team Quest, was called Performance Quest. And the idea behind that was stated by Randy, who was the reigning heavyweight champion of the world at the time, had a 12-pound gold belt that said he was the best, but he had no martial arts belt. Not only did he not have a black belt, he didn't have a brown belt. Not only did he not have a brown belt, he didn't have a purple belt. He would have qualified as a white belt, of which I'm not sure he owned. I'm not sure that he ever trained in that situation to have officially even had the white belt. But Randy said, the only thing that matters is the performance. As opposed to having knowledge and understanding, the thing that matters is you versus him, who can win. The performance. I don't care if you're a white belt and this guy's a black belt. Can you beat him? Seems like a very basic concept, doesn't it? But I got to tell you, it's not. It was actually quite philosophic, particularly at the time that Randy came to the world with this, which was 1999. As the reigning champion of the world, who's got the gold belt, who had to beat a number of black belts along the way, but he himself had no belt. I just want you to take that in. Because if you look at who is more dynamic, even if you were to look at their highlight reel, consider that a piece of evidence for the jury. It's Ilia Topuria. Like, Islam is very basic, but we saw from Khabib how far those basics can take you. We're seeing from Merab, who is of that same style, how far those basics can take you. When you look at this list, you have Chimaev at number 4. And I would ask you, though, if they weighed the same, and Chimaev was in the cage about to face, be it Ilya, be it Islam, be it Merab, the 3 guys in front of him. If they weighed the same and you had to part with your money, would you put your money on Chimaev or not? Interesting question, right? It's an interesting question that there is no way to prove. Pantoja comes in at number 5. Look, Pantoja's never looked more sharp. I think at 125 pounds, where the all-around king is viewed as Demetrius Johnson, Pantoja is the first person to ever question that supremacy. I will just add for you, I was a little surprised to not see Kayla on the list. I was also a little surprised when I read the rankings that nowhere, not at heavyweight and not for pound, is Jon Jones' name on the list. And that's one that I would just like clarity to. I'm told that he's back. I accept that. I have my own personal opinion of what back is, which is in the pool or you're not. He is. He is eligible to be booked, but he's not ranked in the top 15. He's not ranked anywhere in the heavyweight class. I would just like a little clarity as to why.